Hello and welcome to GamingKin. As always, my name is Jack and I am joined here by my buddy Mark. Say hello, Mark.
Sup?
Yep. And this is the 22nd of April, although on here I've just noticed a typo I've made, so I am going to fix that. 22nd instead of 22nd.
Smooth.
Shoosh. And we have some news for you guys and some creepypastas.
Creepypasta.
So we're going to start with one of the creepypastas that Mark has.
Yep, so this one is a bit long-winded, mainly because not only do I struggle to paraphrase, um, I also know our stories you'll find out, uh, more or less paraphrase too much. So it's a mixed bag. Okay, so the first story is Old Man Winter by Jeffrey E. Bright, and I got this obviously from the Creepypasta website. So basically, it starts off with the psych evaluation of a Professor Courtney. He is being sorry, he is getting a psych eval from his previous colleague after seemingly going insane. Um, Prior to his insanity, he was at the Western University Psych Department, headed. He was a special consultant with a community clinic for criminally insane. As he put it, I am 57 years of age, moderately healthy, unfortunately, close to the precipice of insanity. Um, he catalogues his fall to insanity during his psychic evaluation of his colleague, and he talks about how it all happened quite recently, within a few weeks, when he went to meet with another colleague, a Dr. Lansing, to help him with the case study of Holiday Hacker, a Mr. William James Morton, who was noted to have killed 156 women and children from 1993 to 2013. He done it in a ritualistic manner whereby he uses his position as a meter reader to stake out the property, gain access, get to know people's routines, and that way, between 2 to 3 weeks, he would come back when he knew the father or husband rather was away on like triple shift or night shift, and he'd come in between 1 and 4 a.m. on holiday, ritualistically slit the throat of oldest to youngest child, as well as the wife. After which he would then desecrate the home. So if there's like a Christmas tree that was decorated, he would take off the decorations as his like calling card, like to show he was there effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the story starts to take a bit of a twist, which Dr. Corney actually warns his colleague, like, this is where it gets a bit different. Essentially, sorry, getting the names again. Martin, the serial killer, the holy hacker, was then caught in his final job, and as a final, uh, getting words here, next that. Basically, was finally caught um, when he killed the three children, and then he thought he killed the wife, but under dying breath, she grabbed the phone, called the police. When police turned up, they found Morton curled up in a ball, crying, covered in fluids. Sounds nasty. Gets worse. But from there, Dr. Corney explains him along with like Dr. Lansing went out to do a psych eval on Morton. And during the evaluation, Morton shows like how almost two personalities, but it's
Yeah.
revealed he was putting on an act initially to get attention, this kind of puts off Dr. Lansing, but Martin explains it as it's not he wanted attention, it's he wanted witnesses. He wanted people who know shit to be there for it to happen. And he says it's going to happen soon. Lansing's like, well, fuck, I don't really believe this. I think you're talking about pish. But nonetheless, Dr. Courtney's like really entranced. Wait, what's going to happen? So then Morn goes into recount what happened on his final murder, effectively,
Mm-hmm.
stating that after he slit the woman's throat, we went downstairs to fulfill his usual calling card of stripping the Christmas tree.
Mm.
Like essentially, what he'd do is if it was like Valentine's Day, he'd like cut the cards, rip them up. There's Easter, he'd break eggs, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd always leave a calling card.
Yep.
So he went downstairs to strip the tree as he would normally do. Midway through, he hears like a meaty plop. Describes it similar to a pot roast being dropped from a height.
Mm.
Freaked out, turns around, and out of the chimney comes a sooty, red suited individual. Morn is always like, what the fuck? The individual goes, oh, 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 you be naughty. Morn, rather than try and figure out what the fuck's going on, grabs the only thing he's got to hand, which was his scalpel, which he used to kill the kids and the wife, and stabs the person in the throat, thinking naturally, nah, do it, should do it. Anyone else would have done it. Instead, what happens is the individual takes a step back, looks at Morn kind of ruefully, like, what the fuck you done here? Pulls the scalpel out, goes, naughty, naughty. Morn freaks out, grabs the thing closest to him, which turns out to be the Christmas stand for the tree, because the American trees are heavy, big and heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the big metal stands. Grabs it, cracks the utter living shit out of Santa Claus's head, causing the body to collapse. Thinking that's him finally done, because the face, the head is in ruins. He gets up to leave, and that's when he hears like a bubbling sound,
Mm-hmm.
like words trying to form. He turns back, and miraculously the body tries to stand again. But gets up and somehow mumbles out the words, "I'll be seeing you soon," and disappears back up the chimney. And this causes Morn to snap. That's why I was found kind of huddled on the ground, covered in blood, not knowing what the hell was going on. From there, we're pulled back to the psych evaluation for Morn, with Dr. Lansing stating, obviously, he doesn't believe it still. He's like, this is the biggest fish story I've ever heard. Dr. Courtney, again, is still enthralled by it. He's taken in, mainly because, but I forgot to mention, for the 20 years that he was doing these ritualistic killings, kept a diary called the Tome of Seasons. In it, he had like properly well documented, meticulously documented details of the killings, as well as his mental his thoughts on it. It's not like ravings; it was actually like clinical observations.
Mm.
So Courtney doesn't think he's psychotic. Lansing's like a bit weary. So while we're all kind of discussing and getting into it, Lansing kind of stops, goes silent for a bit, tells him to shush and says, "Do you hear bells?" From there, one side of the interview room gets smashed in, and outside they see a red sleigh levitating in air. Everyone's obviously shitting himself. Forgot to mention, there is a security guard in there as well. So obviously, Morn is a convicted murderer of quite a high number.
Mm.
So the guard shoots himself, pulls his gun. Before he knows what to do, he is getting attacked by two green-covered or green-clothed bell-wearing elves, one of which manages to actually force his arm through the back of a security guard.
Mm.
They utterly destroy him. Morn at this point is pissed himself because he knew it was coming, but he's still terrified. Dr. Courtney's like went to La La Land. He's just standing there staring, doesn't know what to say, so he's just froze. And Dr. Lansing is basically trying to psychoanalyze everything and trying to get everyone to calm down, trying to become like this kind of dominant voice of reason.
Mm.
Nell's not like that. So they tear him to shit as well. While the elves are doing that, Santa, or what Morton keeps referring to as it, basically disembarks the sleigh, is making his way to Morton. Morton shit himself, pissed himself, terrified. Courtney eventually regains enough like sense of mind to try and get near the gun that the security guard dropped. It's America, so there's guns.
Mm.
Managed to grab the gun, and he managed to get it pointed at one of the elves, which is currently massacring the doctor, our doctor, Dr. Lansing.
Mm-hmm.
However, because he's utterly snapped mentally, he lets out a maniacal giggle almost. This causes elves to turn and look. Not fast enough. As Courtney does manage to shoot one in the head. Another one obviously launches an assault. As he's charging, he rips out, I believe we said it was tail, I think it's kneecap. I always get the terminology crossed. And he rips out his kneecap, obviously causes him to fall over, pinches in his chest, and just screams, dead. To which Courtney replies, yes. He's got a gun pointed at the wee elf's crop. Fires, the body was fucking flying, naturally.
Mm.
But while all this is going on, Santa is now caught up to Morton, who's handcuffed to the table. He lifts Morton up in one hand, ripping out the handcuffs. Morton screaming his head off, utterly pissed himself, begging for help. Courtney's froze on the floor, his leg ruined, obviously can't get up in total shock. And he just all he can do is lie and watch as Santa removes his hat and places it on the head of Morton. Once he does, Morton's screams and pleas and tears stop immediately. And it's just stillness. And then over the next couple of seconds, the metamorphosis happen with Morton, who previously was kind of a thin build, 5'10", grown taller, fatter, while all our Santa kind of deflate. And this goes on until eventually there's no Morton anymore. And there's Santa Claus next to what's like a deflated husk. Morton, Santa Claus, turns to Dr. Courtney and says, now you'll be a good boy. Goes on the sleigh and leaves. Not before resuming the entirety of the interview room. They just remakes as it was, obviously with the dead body still sitting there.
Mm.
And naturally, it's all pointed on Dr. Courtney, which brings us to the present, where he was trying to explain to his colleague what was happening. At the end of it, basically state whether or not you think I'm insane or not. It begs a question that we need to. What? Sorry. It was the ending that you got me because it's pure psychoanalytic ending and it was really interesting, but life me. It's one of those ones that's like, anyway, point is, it was one of the coolest stories I found, and I was like, yes, I need to read this one. I very much recommend reading it again. It's Old Man Winter by Jeffrey Bright. And honestly, I would love to read a series about it. I am not into it. But yeah, so that's my first.
Sounds good. I actually want to actually give it a proper read now.
I know, like, obviously, I butcher things when I try to explain them. I am very aware of that. But honestly, Old Man Winter, Jeffrey Bright, It is very detailed, it's very analytical, it goes into good depth on it. I would thoroughly recommend it. It's only like a 20-minute read, but yeah, I definitely do it. Okay, so you're up, man.
Yep. So I'm actually going to go in a different order than I originally intended to. Um,
Okay.
I was going to start with a lost episode creepypasta, but you were talking about how that one went really psychoanalytical near the end. I'm going to go
Yeah,
with
which is
a psychology creepypasta.
okay.
Um, called the Russian Sleep Experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unlike you, I am not particularly good at. No, sorry, like you, I am not particularly good at paraphrasing. So, what I am actually going to do is I am going to read a chunk of it, and I will leave the link to the uh, site that has it, creepypasta.fandom.com. I will leave the link to this particular one in the description. Hopefully, if I remember to, after we've finished doing the podcast.
Yep.
So, Russian researchers in the late 1940s kept 5 people awake for 15 days using an experimental gas-based stimulant. They were kept in a sealed environment to carefully monitor their oxygen intake so the gas didn't kill them, since it was toxic in high concentrations. This was before closed circuit cameras, so they only had microphones and 5-inch glass porthole sized windows into the chamber to monitor them. The chamber was stocked with books, cots to sleep in but no bedding, running water and a toilet, and enough dry food to last all 5 for over a month. The test subjects were political prisoners deemed enemies of the state during World War II. Now, everything was fine for the first 5 days. The subjects hardly complained, having been promised falsely that they would be freed if they submitted to the test and did not sleep for 30 days. Their conversations and activities were monitored, and it was noted that they continued to talk about increasingly traumatic incidents in their past, and the general tone of their conversations took on a darker aspect after the day 4 mark. After 5 days, they started to complain about the circumstances and events that led them to where they are, and started to demonstrate severe paranoia. They stopped talking to each other and began alternately whispering to the microphones and the one-way mirrored portholes. Oddly, they seemed to think they could win the trust of the experimenters by turning over their comrades, the other subjects in captivity with them. At first, the researchers suspected that this was an effect of the gas itself. After 9 days, the first of them started screaming. He ran the length of the chamber repeatedly, yelling at the top of his lungs for 3 hours straight. He continued attempting to scream, but was only able to produce occasional squeaks. The researchers postulated that he had physically torn his vocal cords. The most surprising thing about this behavior is how the other captives reacted to it, or rather didn't react to it. They continued whispering to the microphones until the second of the captives started to scream. The 2 non-screaming captives took the books apart, smeared page after page with their own feces, and pasted them calmly over the glass portholes. The screaming promptly stopped, as did the whispering to the microphones. After 3 more days passed, the researchers checked the microphones hourly to make sure they were working, since they thought it was impossible that no sound could be coming with 5 people inside. The oxygen consumption in the chamber indicated that all 5 must still be alive. In fact, it was the amount of oxygen 5 people would consume at a very heavy level of strenuous exercise. On the morning of the 14th day, the researchers did something they would not do. They said they would not do to get a reaction from the captives. They used the intercom inside the chamber, hoping to provoke any response from the captives. They were afraid were either dead or vegetables. They announced, "We are opening the chamber to test the microphones. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor or you will be shot." Compliance will earn one of you your immediate freedom. To their surprise, they heard a single phrase in a calm response. We no longer want to be freed. A debate broke out amongst the researchers and the military forces funding the research. Unable to provoke any more response using the intercom, it was finally decided to open the chamber at midnight on the 15th day. The chamber was flushed of the stimulant gas and filled with fresh air, and immediately voices from the microphones began to object. 3 different voices began begging, as if pleading for the life of loved ones, to turn the gas back on. The chamber was opened and soldiers sent in to retrieve the test subjects. They began to scream louder than ever, and so did the soldiers when they saw what was inside. 4 of the 5 subjects were still alive, although no one could rightly call the state any of them were in life. Food rations past day 5 had not been so much touched. There were chunks of meat from the dead test subjects' thighs and chest stuffed into the drain in the centre of the chamber, blocking the drain and allowing 4 inches of water to accumulate on the floor. Precisely how much water on the floor was actually blood was never determined. All 4 surviving test subjects also had large portions of muscle and skin torn away from their bodies. The destruction of flesh and exposed bone on their fingertips indicated that the wounds were inflicted by hand, not with teeth, as the researchers initially thought. Closer examination of the position and angles of the wounds indicated that most, if not all of them, were self-inflicted. That's just a short segment of it. I will hopefully remember to post a link at the bottom so you can read the rest of it, but it is mental.
Okay, I'm gonna need that link sent to me because I'm actually so into that right now.
Yep, I will send that your way.
I need it. Oh my god.
But yeah, that is the Russian sleep experiment.
Nice.
And it does continue on. And it does get a bit mental.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it.
It really does delve well into the human psyche and those kinds of things. But unless Mark has anything he wants to say on it, because I don't really want to say too much on it because I didn't read the whole thing.
No, no, no. I'm definitely gonna sit and read that tonight, man. That is so cool.
I recommend to anyone listening that they do go out and check it out. If they don't want to sit and read the whole thing, I'm sure if you type Russian sleep experiment into YouTube, you will find it.
Yeah.
But will we take a short dive into some news?
Yeah, sounds good, man.
I want to start by talking about the PlayStation 5's new controller. Uh,
Oh, you mean the Avengers Armored PS4 controller?
yeah, the DualSense.
Yep.
I'm liking the sound of it. I'm not gonna lie. They've basically taken all the good bits about the DS4 and made it, better. There's no big egregious light bar in the back, but it still has the LED lighting on it. You've still got the touchpad, which for some games was useful, some games not.
Majority not.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
They're going away that I like by instead of using micro or nano USB, going with the USB-C charging port. USB-C is definitely the way to go.
Fair enough.
It's got a built-in microphone array as well as
Cool.
keeping the speaker. But we'll still have a 3.5mm jack, so you can plug a headset in.
Definitely needed.
It has a mute button on the control pad for
Actually, oh, nice.
muting your
Is
headset.
that for? Oh, right. So is that okay? I thought you meant that's when you can like chat in the game.
No, for muting your headset or muting the
Ah,
built-in microphone. But the one thing I'm liking is the haptic feedback.
yeah. What is that?
Right, so it's just the way it vibrates. So the DS through to the DS4, DS standing for DualShock.
See, I thought
Um,
you said that earlier, and I was like, wait, what? You mean PS?
the I mean the PlayStation 4 controller is called the DS4. The PlayStation 3 controller, the second generation of PS3 controllers, the DS3, uh,
Hmm.
with 6-axis technology. Um, DS stands for DualShock, and it's because
All
it's
right.
got
Okay.
two rumble motors.
Ah, right. Okay.
It's going more the way of um, the Nintendo Switch with haptic feedback. Haptic feedback is like when you're doing things on your phone, you hear the slight vibrations.
Hmm.
That's haptic feedback. The DS,
Okay.
not the DS, the Switch already has it in the Joy-Cons, but it's called HD Rumble Plus or HD Rumble in the original, and the newer generation Joy-Cons HD Rumble Plus. Where unlike in the DualShock and the Xbox controllers, it's a motor that spins at a set speed. They're smaller motors that have a range. So with the uh, Joy-Cons, it can do different types of rumble for different
Hmm.
periods of time and different speeds. So if you were to lay it like on a table, and it does some of the haptic feedback stuff. It does. You could actually, if you could actually theoretically program it to like do music just through the vibrations and stuff.
Cool.
You've also got adaptive triggers. So that is where there's a motor, not just a spring, but a motor as well, in triggers. So as you pull down on them, depending on what you're doing, um, say you are playing a racing game, it would tighten up slightly as you get nearer to full brake. So that, because some games, if you put the brake on full, you don't have the ABS on, your wheels will lock up and you'll just slide instead of actually
Hmm.
brake. It would things like that. It would have the tension of an actual trigger for playing things like Sniper Elite. If you are
Cool.
playing something by Quantic Dream, perhaps, things like Detroit Become Human, Beyond Two Souls, and Heavy Rain, like that kind of game. You know how
Hmm.
sometimes it makes you pull the triggers to do an action, sometimes it makes you use a
Aye.
face button to do an action or use the sticks. If it's a trigger action, it'll make it harder, easier to pull back the trigger depending on what the action is. So, say if it's opening a door, it'll turn it off and you can open the door. But say it's like lifting up a massive steel beam, it'll make it harder to pull back. Not so hard that you'll have to like pretty much crush the controller just to um, pull the trigger back, but it will, you know.
Mostly, yeah.
Um, so yeah, the the senior vice president of platform planning and management, Hideki Nishino, described it as we've also incorporated adaptive triggers into the L2 and R2 buttons of the DualSense so you can truly feel the tension of your actions, like when drawing a bow to shoot an arrow. As for the share button, which was highly criticised at first, still is a wee bit on the DS4, that is becoming the create button.
Oh,
There's not many details on that just now, but Nishino says we will get more details on that as we get closer to launch. Like I said, haptic feedback will add a variety of powerful sensations you'll feel when you play, such as the slow grittiness of driving a car through mud. You know,
huh.
it's a microphone array talked about is described as which will enable players to easily chat with friends without a headset, ideal for jumping into a quick conversation. Yeah, he's added, but of course, if you're planning to chat for a longer period, it's good to have that headset handy. The PlayStation logo is monochrome instead of colored, and instead of being like embedded in a button, it is the button. The button is the shape of the PlayStation logo. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I'm looking forward to seeing all the kind of color schemes and stuff. I've seen someone who who remembers Homestar Runner. Do you remember that
I
site,
don't.
Homestar Runner? Right, Homestar Runner's hilarious, and there's a character in it called Strong Sad. No, Strong Mad, because you had Strong Sad, which was like a big fluffy marshmallow. Strong Bad was a luchador, and Strong Mad was essentially a walking brick that looked angry all the time. They coloured one in to look like Strong Mad. Um, so yeah, but yeah, it should be pretty good. Many people are saying it's about equal footing as the Xbox Series X gamepad.
Okay, cool.
USB-C. It's compatible with Xbox One. It's got a headphone jack. Um, the new controller is slightly smaller, so it should fit smaller hands. Bumpers have been rounded, triggers reduced, grips sculpted for better accessibility. There's a new D-pad. Yeah. So it's definitely something we're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, one for like new console, it's gonna be so much money.
Yeah. Um, the Xbox Series X controller, like I said, is back compatible with Xbox One, but will also be compatible with PC, obviously, Android and iOS, and it'll remember devices to make switching between each of them easier. Um, the Xbox Series X is going to have a share button, which is placed right below the big old Xbox button, used to take screenshots and record video without opening up menus, much like the share button on PlayStation.
You mean the
Um,
create?
no, the current share button on PlayStation 4. Um, yeah, uh, and both of these controllers they're going to try and get out for about Christmas time.
Best time for it.
Yep. Um, the next bit of news I've got here is remember how we were talking about the kid who got an internship at Konami instead of getting sued when they remade the PT demo for PC in Unreal Engine?
Yeah, is a hero.
Someone has made it using HyperCard, and it's called HyperPT, and it is essentially PT as if it was on an Apple Mac. Like the Apple Mac, the Apple Mac was released in the late 80s, early 90s, as well as the Apple II GS. That was what HyperCard was used on, and it looks absolutely fantastic, even if it is just like black and white. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah,
it does
definitely
look
jump
really good.
in.
Um, Now, this version of PT isn't a full-on recreation. It, some stuff has had to be stripped back for obvious reasons, but some stuff has
Mm-hmm.
also been added. Um, so yeah, uh, it can be found on itch.io as part of their recent HyperCard themed game jam called Hyperjam. It's free to download, or you can pay if you want to support the creator. It's playable on Linux, Mac, and Windows. Um, yeah, uh, I've just kind of seen a GIF of it being played, and I've showed it to Mark. We agree it does look really good.
Yeah, definitely give it a shot. Not gonna lie.
So, if you want to know other things that this hypercar has been used to make, it was used to make the early version of Myst and early demos of You Don't Know Jack from Jackbox. So,
You should have said you don't know me.
from MeBox.
Yeah.
Actually, we were playing Jackbox Party Pack games the other night. It was so much fun. Um, Me and a couple of folk on the Discord server. Like
Oh, cool.
I was up till about 6 a.m. playing, man. It was so good.
You mean you're up till next day?
Yes. I was up
Hey, good.
so late.
No, you're up so early. Did I get up at 6:30 for work then?
Yeah, I must have fallen asleep. Like
Like just as I got up, man.
so late. It was ridiculous, man.
I do
Um,
like pretty jelly.
but yeah, it was a hell of a lot of fun to play though. That's the thing. Um, but it's always it's always good to do it because you play it on your mobile and just the host streams the kind of game screen and everyone plays from their phone.
Mm.
It's super good. It's like with the current lockdown and stuff, and also the fact that a lot of the folk that I play games with are over stateside, so
All right.
it does make it a bit easier for doing that. Um, and here's one for you guys listening out there. Um, I know how much you always want to know when we're doing our next podcast, or uh, I'm streaming AOR races, or I pre-order a game and play it for 24 hours straight. I know how much you guys really. I know. Uh, but there's a new
No.
site. No, there's a new site that creates a one-stop shop for finding streamers across platforms called PopDog. Um, and they don't have a streaming service of their own, but it curates streamers from different platforms, especially now that there's been a mass exodus from Twitch to YouTube and Mixer mostly. Um, so on PopDog, you can find streamer you want. You can search by popular streamers, sort by game, look for esports competitions that are currently live. Shows trending sections, which shows streamers who are outperforming their usual view counts. Uh, and when you find what you're looking for, instead of them linking you out to Twitch, Mixer, YouTube, um, it shows you the stream directly on the site. And you can chat, subscribe, and all the things you would normally do as if you were on that platform directly, which is a really cool way of doing things to try and get people, like, because at the moment we're doing this thing where we're streaming through Twitch and YouTube. Um, but if we were to become like a YouTube partner or a Twitch partner, we would have to stream on one and then do a rerun on the other to have it on both platforms. So you would be able to find your streamer through that one site. And they do plan to include all major streaming services in the future. So you've got MLG TV. There's another one that I can't remember the name of it for some reason. But yeah, there's a couple of new platforms out there try to take advantage of people moving away from Twitch. So you'll be able to find them on there. So should be all good for that. Are we wanting to do some more creepypastas, or we want to continue on with a couple more news stories? Which would you prefer, Mark?
Let's see. So I think we worked two stories and news, two stories and news, and two stories.
Yep.
Is there? So if we're only having like two news sections and just try and maybe do a couple more news bits,
I can
or
do
you
some
want to
more.
try and save some?
I can do some more news. I've got plenty news. I've
Yeah,
always
like
got plenty.
maybe one more stories or something. Then yeah, we can go back to it.
Yep, one more. Right. Well, I'm going to do one that I'm really, 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 really quite excited about actually. Now, I'm sure many people who watch the things from our YouTube channel in particular, because I've not really streamed any sim racing stuff on Twitch, will know that I am a big racing fan. Um,
Really? Didn't know.
oh man, I mean I stream racing every Thursday, so if it's not obvious by now, then yeah, I like racing. Formula One 2019 came out last June, and they brought in a new feature which was drivers being able to switch teams. Well, now they are allowing the 11th team, you to create your own team and manage that team as well as drive for that team,
Ooh.
into the new F1 2020 game, which comes out this year. Now, you would think, yeah, okay, you can create your own team, but here's the thing. In real life Formula One, there are four engine manufacturers: Mercedes, Renault, Ferrari, and Honda. You can pick which engine manufacturer you get. You will be able to pick your sponsors, your color scheme, all of that stuff. However, what they haven't said is whether it is only your custom team that you can manage, or if you can become the manager of, say, the Ferrari F1 team, or Renault, or Red Bull, one of the actual real life teams.
Mhm.
They're also adding the Hanoi Street Circuit and Circuit Zandvoort, which were both to be brought into the F1 calendar this year, but due to the coronavirus, have been postponed indefinitely. And for the first time in about 10 years, we've got split screen local multiplayer returning as well. You also have your deluxe edition, which will be the Michael Schumacher edition with the Benetton B194, B195, which was his two first championship cars. The Jordan 191, which is what he drove in his debut at Spa-Francorchamps, and the F1 2000, which is the first car that Michael Schumacher won a title with in his 5 consecutive titles with Ferrari. So yeah, that it's looking like it's going to be pretty good. We don't know when the game is coming out, but last year it was kind of June, July, so probably expect that kind of time this year. And it's coming out for Google Stadia, PS4, PC, and Xbox One.
Nice.
And I'm excited to drive the GamingKin racing car Formula One team. Give Renault their first World Championship, engine since, I don't know, the mid 2000s when Sebastian Vettel won 4 championships in a row at Red Bull, most likely.
Such a racing fanboy.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fanboy.
You meant it.
Yeah, I've never said I'm not a racing fanboy. It's when you say that about Square Enix, I'm not a fanboy, just passionate.
It's the same day.
Not a fanboy,
Semantics,
just passionate. So well, I continue on with the the creepypastas.
Yep, do it.
Yes, so I went with something sciencey last time. I'm going with a Lost Episodes
Dun, dun.
creepypasta. Again, this one is a wee bit on the long side. There is a video that goes with it, but unfortunately I can't show you it because I don't have it already set up on the OBS. But I'm going to read a bunch of it, and I will again link it in the description below, so that if you wish to, you can go ahead and read it. And again, it's from the same site where I got the last one, creepypastafandom.fandom.com. A great place for like anything like fandom wise. I just want to start off by saying, if you want the answer at the end, prepare to be disappointed. There just isn't one. I was an intern at Nickelodeon Studios for a year in 2005 for my degree in animation, and it wasn't paid, of course, most internships aren't, but it did have some perks beyond education. To adults it might not seem like a big one, but most kids at the time would shit themselves over it. Now, since I worked directly with the editors and animators, I got to view the new episodes days before they aired. I'll get right to it without giving away too many unnecessary details. They had very recently made the SpongeBob movie, and the entire staff was somewhat sapped of creativity, so it took them longer to start up the season. But the delay lasted longer for more upsetting reasons. There was a problem with the Series 4 premiere that set everybody and everything back for several months. Me and 2 other interns were in the editing room along with the lead animators and sound editors for the final cut. We received the copy that was supposed to be Fear of a Krabby Patty and gathered round the screen to watch. Now, given that it isn't final yet, animators often put up a little mock card, sort of an inside joke for us, with phony, often sometimes lewd titles such as How Sex Doesn't Work instead of Rockabye Bivalve when SpongeBob and Patrick adopt a sea scallop. Nothing particularly funny, but work-related chuckles. So when we saw the title card Squidward's Suicide, we didn't think of it more than a morbid joke. One of the interns did a small throat laugh at it. The happy-go-lucky music plays as normal. The story began with Squidward practicing his clarinet, hitting a few sour notes like normal. We hear SpongeBob laughing outside, and Squidward stops, yelling at him to keep it down as he has a concert that night and needs to practice. SpongeBob says okay and goes to see Saturday with Patrick. The bubble splash screen comes up, and we see the ending of Squidward's concert. This is when things began to seem a little bit off. While playing, a few frames repeat themselves, but the sound doesn't. At this point, sound is synced up with animation, so yes, that's not common. Uh, but when he stops playing, the sound finishes as if the skip never happened. There's a slight murmuring in the crowd before they begin to boo him. Not normal cartoon booing that is common in the show, but you can very clearly hear malice in it. Squidward's in full frame and looks visibly afraid. The shot goes to the crowd, with SpongeBob in center frame, and he too is booing, very much unlike him. That isn't the odd, something a bit more real than CGI. The pupils were red. Some of us looked at each other, obviously confused, but since we weren't the writers, we didn't question its appeal to children yet. The shot goes to Squidward sitting on the edge of his bed, looking very forlorn. The view out of his porthole window is of a night sky, so it isn't very long after the concert. The unsettling part is that there is no sound. Literally, no sound. Not even the feedback from the speakers in the room. It's as if the speakers were turned off, though their status showed them to be working perfectly. He just sat there, blinking in this silence for about 30 seconds. Then he started to sob softly. He put his hands or tentacles over his eyes and cried quietly for a full minute more. All the while the sound in the background slowly growing from nothing to barely audible. It sounded like a slight breeze through the forest. The screen slowly begins to zoom in on his face. By slow, I mean it's only noticeable if you look at shots 10 seconds apart side by side. His sobbing gets louder and more full of hurt and anger. The screen then twitches a bit, as if it twists in on itself for a split second and then back to normal. The wind through the trees sound gets slowly louder and more severe, as if a storm is brewing somewhere. The eerie part of this sound, and Squidward sobbing, sounded real, as if the sound wasn't coming from the speakers, but as if the speakers were holes the sound was coming through from the other side. As good as sound as the studio likes to have, they don't purchase the equipment to be that good to produce sound of that quality. Below the sound of the wind and sobbing, very faint, something sounded like laughing. It came at odd intervals and it never lasted more than a second, so you had a hard time pinning it. We watched this show twice, so pardon me if things sound a bit too specific, but I've had time to think about them. After 30 seconds of this, the screen blurred and twitched violently, and something flashed over the screen as if a single frame was replaced. The lead animator paused and rewound frame by frame. What we saw was horrible. It was a still photo of a dead child. He couldn't have been more than 6. The face was mangled and bloodied, one eye dangling over his upturned face, popped out. He was naked down to his underwear, his stomach crudely cut open and his entrails laying beside him. He was laying on some pavement that was probably a road. The most upsetting part was that there was a shadow of the photographer. There was no crime tape, no evidence tags or markers, and the angle was completely off for a shot designed to be evidence. It would seem that the photographer was the person responsible for the child's death. We were, of course, mortified. We pressed on, hoping that it was just a sick joke. The screen flipped back to Squidward, still sobbing louder than before, and half body in frame. There was now what appeared to be blood running down his face from his eyes. The blood was also done in a hyper-realistic style, looking as if you'd get blood on your fingers. The wind sounded now as if it was that of a gale blowing through a forest. There were even more snapping sounds of branches. The laughing, a deep baritone, lasting at longer intervals and coming more frequently after about 20 seconds. The screen again twisted and showed a single frame photo. The editor was reluctant to go back. We all were, but he knew he had to. This time the photo was of what appeared to be a little girl, no older than the first child. She was laying on her stomach with barrettes and a pool of blood next to her. Her left eye too was popped out and popped, naked except for her underpants. Her entrails were piled on top of her, another crude cut along her back. Again, the body was in the street, and the photographer's shadow was visible. very similar in size and shape to the first. I had to choke back vomit, and one intern, the only female in the room, ran out. The show resumed. After after uh, about 5 seconds after this second photo played, Squidward went silent, as did all sound, like it was when this scene started. He put his tentacles down and his eyes were now done in hyper-realism like the others were in the beginning of the episode. They were bleeding, bloodshot and pulsating. He just stared at the screen as if watching the viewer. After about 10 seconds he started sobbing, at this time not covering his eyes. The sound was piercing and loud, and the most fear-inducing of all, as this sobbing was mixed in with screams. Tears and blood were dripping down his face at a heavy rate. The wind sound came back, and so did the deep voice laughing, and this time the still photo lasted for a good 5 frames. The animator was able to stop it on the 4th and backed up. This time the photos of a boy about the same age, but this time the scene was different. The entrails were just being pulled out from a stomach wound by a large hand, the right eye popped and dangling, blood trickling down it. The animator proceeded. It was hard to believe, but the next one was different, but we couldn't tell what. He went on to the next same thing. He went back to the first and played them quicker and I lost it. I vomited all over the floor. The animating and sound editors gasping at the screen. The 5 frames were not as if they were 5 different photos. They were played out as if they were frames from a video. We saw the hand slowly lifting out the guts. We saw the kid's eyes focus on it. We even saw 2 frames of the kid beginning to blink. The lead sound editor told us to stop. He had to call the creator to see this. Mr. Hillenberg arrived within about 15 minutes. He was confused as to why he was called down there, so the editor just continued the episode. Once the few frames were shown, all screaming, all sound again stopped. Squidward was just staring at the viewer full face and frame for about 3 seconds. The shot quickly panned out and a deep voice said, "Do it," and in Squidward's hands a shotgun. He immediately put the gun in his mouth and pulls the trigger. Realistic blood and brain matter splatters up the wall behind him and his bed, and he flies back with force. The last 5 seconds of the episode show his body on the bed, on his side, one eye dangling on what's left of his head above the floor, blankly staring at it. Then the episode ends. Mr. Hellenberg is obviously very angry at this and demanded to know what the hell was going on. Most people left the room at this point, so it was just a handful of us to watch it again. Viewing the episode twice only served to imprint the entirety of it into my mind and caused me horrible nightmares. I'm sorry I stayed. The only theory we could think of was the file was edited by someone in the chain from the drawing studio to here. The CTO was called to analyse when it happened. The analysis of the file did show it was edited over by new material. However, the timestamp of it was a mere 24 seconds before we began viewing it. All equipment involved was examined for foreign software and hardware as well as glitches, as if the timestamp may have glitched and showed the wrong time, but everything checked out fine. We don't know what happened to this day, and nobody does. There was an investigation due to the nature of the photos, but nothing came of it. No child scene was identified, no clues were gathered from data involved, nor physical clues in the photos. I never believed in unexplainable phenomena before, but now that I have something happen and I can't prove anything about it beyond anecdotal evidence, I think twice about things. That's the entire thing. I ended up reading the whole bloody thing this time.
Yeah. Well, annoyingly, none of mine are that short, so the best I can do is summarize and point you in the direction. Okay, so yeah, that was annoyingly about Jack. So yeah, unlike Jack, as I said, mine are rather a bit larger. I do have a video, which I feel is cheating. I am going to give a brief overview of mine. This one was from the Creepypasta page, and it's called In the Mist by Random Ruru. I didn't realize that was his name until I had to look up. Anyway, so this one's basically taken from memory because it's less of like a narrative than Old Man Winter. It's more about it's a more of an atmospheric fear.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one takes place in the Scottish Highlands, and it's from the perspective of the author of it. He states, when he was younger, he used to live in the Highlands with his parents, and they're avid walkers, so they would always go walking through the Highlands, walking along, the moors, through the hills and stuff. So when he got to his early 12, 13 kind of age,
Yep.
he knew place back and backwards and forwards, could get there at night, all that kind of shit. It was just this thing. Plus, obviously, because they're so far out, there's like little to no way in all normal amenities. Like electricity was far between. There's no internet as of yet, so he spent most of his time out and about. So like that was his safe place. It was his go-to place. In your accounts, one point when he was like 13, he was going a walk. He went on a long walk with his dog. And at one point, it came foggy to the point where he struggled to see where he was going. While he was walking about, his dog, who he grew up with, so he knows it backwards and forwards, started growling at him. Naturally freaked him out. It was when he was kind of exploring like a caved area. The dog then jumps at him, pounces on him, and knocks to his back. Naturally, he's freaking out, thinking, "What the hell is happening?" Thinks that the dog's about to, kill him. And then he realizes the dog's actually standing over him, and it's growling out at something that he can't see. Eventually, the fog passes, and the dog calms down, and obviously starts licking the boy, trying to, see if he's okay. Boy kind of calms down. Well, he doesn't fully trust the dog as of yet because he still thinks that will happen. But he ended up walking home. So from that point, he becomes a bit weary. Not necessarily all the mirrors, but more just life in general. It's kind of freaked him out a bit. Then in the story jump to a couple of years later, like 15, 16. Electricity is now more accessible for him in the Highlands. He's now got internet access, but on one particular day, he notes that with the obviously advent of internet access and how he's able to talk to his friends more, naturally does what every teenager does, and stays in the house for a ridiculous length of time. Not unlike quarantine, but somewhere. So one day he realizes, like, while internet shit, he realizes I've not been out for a walk in literally like 2 months. It's the longest time he's ever not been out in a walk. So he decides to basically go kick about, enjoy the day while everyone's fishing anyway. So he goes a walk through mirrors, tries to kind of find his favorite hiking spot, his kind of favorite pathways, that kind of thing. While he's doing it, the fog kind of descends again. And as he's going about, he realizes with a shocking clarity he doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know which way to go. He starts freaking out. Because obviously up in the Highlands, there's always been tales of travelers getting lost. So there's never that kind of thing of, oh no, this is horrible. Someone's went lost and missing in the moors. It's more of a, oh, there's another traveler who's been silly enough to get themselves lost. So at this point, however, he starts to actually feel it because this is like his safe place. This is go-to place as a child, and he has no idea what to do. He's out. Gets this overwhelming sense of dread. He feels like everyone's kind of closing in on him, so he starts running. And what he hopes is the right direction. As he's running, he trips a few times, ends up unfortunately covered in blood. So by the time he does eventually get home, which he does, luckily, His parents are rightly freaked out, thinking what the hell happened. I just talked it down as obviously the unfortunate kind of decky kind of thing, but it does set him a fear of the mirrors. Idea of obviously a massive open expanse of it. Like with anything, like I guess with Americans, it's like cornfields equivalency.
Mm.
Like you look out and just how far it is, and you freak out naturally.
Yep.
So this causes him to basically kind of avoid the mirrors for a time. And then at one point, I think it's I believe in the story, this is a couple of years later, or maybe a year later, I'm not too sure. And he's got a friend over, a female friend, which actually, admittedly, I thought the story was going to go in a very different direction. So I was like, oh, all right, it did. So we end up having another bad dinner that day. And the friend basically says, well, since we're up here already, let's go like a walk through the mirrors. So obviously not everyone has access to like unlimited countryside. Um, so they go a walk in the kind of mirrors of Highland. He takes her basically around his kind of favorite spots. But again, the fog starts to descend. He starts getting a bit confused and a bit panicked. The friend sensing this obviously gets a bit irritated because well, the guy's meant to know where he's going. He's meant to know exactly what he's doing. So as we're walking along, trying to figure out the bearings and get to where we go, the author in the distance sees like the outline of a person in the fog who's like kind of fallen over. Looks like we're not too sure what we're doing. Looks like might get a bit lost, unsure, and all that shit.
Mm.
So he's got obviously got urge to go and advise him why he's there. The friend also sees a person, um, and she says to the offer, "Look, we're also lost. We should go ask this person for directions." The offer kind of looks at her as like, "That person? You want us to ask that person for directions?" She's like, "Yeah, like, he's standing there. Looks like he's not where he's going. He's where he's meant to be." The offer kind of looks at her, confused, looks back to a figure in the distance who's still kind of stumbling about, unsure, and he realizes with a stark realization that they're seeing two different things. They're both looking through the fog at a figure, but are not seeing the same thing. Unsure how to like put that into words, he starts freaking out. Both friend at this point is adamant that we'll need to go and talk to that person to get an idea how to get like over back home.
Yeah.
Uh, the guy, like any sane person, says, "Fuck no." So he makes his way, well, where he thinks home is, while the friend goes off in the direction of the figure. And the guy makes it home to his parents' place, explains what's happened, gets in contact with obviously all the local crews about people. But unfortunately, his friend is never found. Basically, it just chalked up, unfortunately, as another missing person. And then the story kind of jumps to when he's finally left the Highlands. He's like, I think he's in his 20s. He's in St Andrews for university. And whenever he's around in the kind of city of it, you'll get people kind of talking about, this fears of the mirrors and stuff, and how all these people going missing. And he always feels the kind of urge gets given his his 2 cents, just tell everyone his story. Majority of people kind of go like derisively saying, yeah, yeah, good story. But then you'll get, a couple people look at him knowingly because they've experienced it as well. And that's basically how the story ends. So that one's definitely more of an atmospheric one. It goes into great depth in terms of the location of it. It goes a great way to build the setting and the feel of the Highlands, like all the greenery and stuff. Naturally, as I said before, I can paraphrase for shit, and I am horrible in explaining stuff. But definitely recommend reading In the Mist by, again, a random Ruru. That's with two O's each time for some reason. But no, I thought it was really cool.
Nice. Yeah, you're going to have to send me that one as well so I can give that one a proper read too.
Yeah, no worries, man.
And so I can also link
Wait,
them in the description.
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah. So that's us both done one each. Well, two each.
Yep.
That means it's time to go back to the news, doesn't it?
Back to the news.
Back to the news. Um, so one that I seen and got kind of excited about, right, was that a cancelled Pokemon game may have been revealed by a Nintendo hack. Now,
That isn't.
back in 2018, a hacker had
Mm-hmm.
reportedly breached Nintendo's internal network, allowing them to gain access to sensitive information belonging to the Japanese company. This breach led to big discoveries regarding early Pokemon designs, but more crucially, the folks who helped disseminate that information admitted that they were sitting on assets that hadn't been revealed yet until now. Midway through April this year, posts on the image board 4chan appeared claiming to once again contain files related to early Pokemon games on the Game Boy. According to these assets, Game Freak was at one point considering developing a companion game for Pokemon Yellow. Now, remember we had Pokemon Red and Blue, and then we had the spin-off Yellow, which focused mainly on Pikachu.
Yeah,
Well,
because it was the best one.
that was going to have a companion game called Pokemon Pink. Uh, Now, mostly the files reference a game called Pokemon Pink. There's no actual sprites, maps, monster designs to go along with it. The leading theory, however, is that the game would have put Clefairy front and center because it was possibly going to be the series mascot before Pikachu took the reins.
Okay, now boo for that theory.
Um,
Right, what I go
the
with personally, right?
well,
So if you
it holds water. The theory holds water though because in the manga,
uh-huh.
uh, the protagonist's first Pokemon was a Clefairy, not a Pikachu.
Oh shit, really?
Hmm
Okay.
So
Huh.
that'll one would have been manga, one would have been anime based.
Okay. Huh, fair enough. I'll shut my mouth then.
um, the leak also contains assets that purport to show early prototype designs for the original games, as well as early English name ideas for some iconic monsters.
Ooh.
With Vulpix being Foxfire,
Okay, nah, boo.
Rapidash being Gallop,
Wait, what?
mhm, and
Okay, now the next one there, yeah, that sounds decent.
Ratata Karatavar.
That sounds mental. Like, what the hell? Like, it was like simplistic, like, oh, it's a firefox, foxfire. Oh, it's a horse gallop. Then for
Yep.
Rattata, they were like, wait, sorry, what was it again? It was a scroll up.
Uh,
Wait, what? Okay,
Kar-
so like foxfire, yeah, gallop, right? Korativar.
Karatavar.
What?
Um,
Like Russian or something, man.
yeah. Oh well, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Japanese to English translation of Wigglytuff, right,
Yeah.
is custard.
What? Custard.
Custard.
Seriously.
Yes.
Oh my god, we custard. Crazy.
So this leak also contains audio files which suggest Game Freak wanted to make the games sound like the anime, something that the studio experimented with in Pokemon Yellow, a game that sought to approximate Ash's experience in the show. Even getting Pikachu's sound effects into Yellow reportedly caused Game Freak headaches, which is why it was believable that they may have had to scrap the more ambitious ideas related to monster cries. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, it's really there's no way it can be a fake because it's a hell of a lot of source code. you know.
Damn,
Um,
man.
so we'll see.
So in essence, it would have just been like the same as, Pokemon Yellow, but like just full with a cool fairy following you around. Well, obviously different story slightly.
Yeah.
Huh. Cool.
Um, but we'll stick with some Nintendo stuff just now.
Yeah, cool.
A modder has released a version of Super Mario Odyssey in the Super Mario 64 engine. So they've made the Switch game in the N64 engine.
That just sounds so fucking random.
Yeah, they've merged N64 game mechanics from Zelda Ocarina of Time and Super Mario 3D World, and have even got some unwanted attention from Nintendo with a Super Mario 64 online mods. Uh,
Ooh.
the creator Kaze Emanuar is also creating a mashup of uh, Super Mario 64 and Banjo Kazooie, which you can check out on their YouTube channel. Um, yeah, it's weird. Cause it it's weird, but it's so cool. Um, I, I expected this would happen at some point, but I didn't imagine we'd see it yet. I'm surprised it's still going. With Nintendo liking to send cease and desists. Um, but since we're still talking about Nintendo, the Switch system update adds button remapping and SD card transfers, as well as more Animal Crossing icons. Um, with new user icons from the New Horizons game, Tom Nook, Timmy and Tommy Nook, Isabelle, Wilbur, CJ, and Flick. The option to transfer data between system memory and an SD card. Um,
Okay.
you can remap buttons on the Joy-Cons or the Switch Pro controller. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Nintendo Switch version 10.0.0.
Cool.
And also, do you remember the meme of when you build a PC, you go, "Can it run Crysis?"
Aye.
Well, now your Nintendo Switch can answer yes to that as well, because Crysis is coming to Nintendo Switch this year. The
Cool, man.
original Crysis is coming to all the modern platforms: Switch, PS4, PC, Xbox One, as a remaster. The details were leaked on the game's official website last Thursday, and then later confirmed by Crytek. The events of the game were set during August 2020, and yeah, I
Shit,
mean,
man.
what more do I need to say? Can your
Like, we need to play it this August, man. It needs to be done.
I will have a double check at when it is coming.
Oh, it
It
needs to be by, man.
just it just says coming soon.
Ah, you can't play it
Um,
afterwards. It kills it.
but yeah, so we've got Crisis coming to the Switch. Who'd have thunk it? Um, Talking about games coming up soon. The new XCOM game is coming on April 24th, 2 days from now, with a twist on turn-based gameplay. It's going to be called XCOM Chimera Squad, standalone release for PC, so it's not going to be on Xbox or PlayStation like the XCOM 2 was.
To be fair, I
Um,
couldn't. So it would not work in the system. Kept freezing. Like seriously, in both my Xbox and my PS4, it wouldn't work.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, this game focuses on a group of 11 named characters brought together in a new location called City 31 to form a special operations team called Chimera Squad. Events take place 5 years after XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. All characters in combat are combat veterans pulled from the ranks of human and alien forces alike. They include sectoids capable of mind control and uh, mutants with overwhelming strength and agility. Together, this hybrid group of special operators is tasked with enforcing an uneasy peace after the fall of Advent. Deploy your team to defend Earth's fragile newfound peace. And lead Chimera Squad through a new experience that innovates on XCOM's turn-based legacy, utilizing strategy, teamwork, and new breach and clear gameplay to complete your mission objectives.
That
Uh,
sounds awesome.
the Chimera Squad will launch on Steam at $10, which is a 50% discount from the base price of $20. So it even starts off on sale. So if that's not a reason to get it, I don't know what is. Other than if, like Mark, you don't have a PC powerful enough to run it.
Pretty much.
Sticking with the upcoming games in May, PC gets a version of Phantasy Star Online 2, and it will be a Microsoft Store exclusive. So, sorry, folk on Linux and Mac, and it's not going to be able. You're not going to be able to get it through the Epic Store or Steam or Origin or any of that. You have to get it from Microsoft Store. It will be cross-compatible with the version already out on Xbox One. The Western release of PSO2 is a free-to-play online action RPG. It features the first 3 years of content from the Japanese release of the game, as well as the most up-to-date balancing and quality of life improvements from the Japanese service. Sega has outlined the current and existing events coming to Phantasy Star Online 2, which includes new perks for Game Pass subscribers. Here's what they're saying. Every day between April 15th and April 23rd, ARC's operatives will receive a special login bonus when they report for duty. A half-scape doll is able to sacrifice itself to revive players automatically if they become incapacitated on the battlefield, a real boost when fighting the fall spawn. ARCs who join an alliance with at least 4 members before April 28th will receive an SG20 ticket, only one of, and members of alliances that have earned at least 5,000 alliance points before April 28th will receive the collectible emote number 269 even, Impromptu Tea Party. 2 new urgent requests, the Cunning Black-Winged Vanguard and the False Champion Luther the Fallen begin this week. PSO2 Diva Kuna returns for live concerts on Saturdays and Sundays. Cherry Blossom Season is coming to Phantasy Star Online 2 with a new look to the renowned Franca's Cafe. Certain arcs ship lobbies will also change their appearances periodically. PSO2 is one of the first games to be included in Microsoft's new Game Pass Ultimate Perks program. All PSO2 players with an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription will receive extra special goodies after their first login, including an Xbox jacket and an Xbox controller accessory for their character to show off in-game. Additional perks will be made every month, such as bonus half-scape dolls and more.
Sounds cool.
So yeah, if you've got Microsoft Game Pass Ultimate, it is definitely worth getting. Phantasy Star Online 2, whether you get it for Xbox One or PC, is completely up to you. I haven't played Phantasy Star Online 2. I have played Phantasy Star 3, 4, 5, and the 2 on the original Sega consoles. They were fantastic. Highly recommend the Phantasy Star series. Although obviously not as much as I recommend Final Fantasy. Just got to make sure I say Final Fantasy is still better than Phantasy Star. And wrapping up my news for the week, we had Deadpool in Fortnite recently. That was probably about a couple of weeks ago. And now we've got X Force. So that is Cable, Domino, and Quake, I think.
Psylocke, man.
Psylocke. Yes. At least I got two. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Oof.
Two,
Ooh.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. Anyway, Cable's the badass one and the one that you have to remember every time.
Filthy casual.
Deadpool and Cable is one of the best comic runs ever, by the way. Just saying. Almost,
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree.
you know, it's up there with Howard the Duck and Doctor Strange and World War Hulk. Oh, Howard the Duck
Anymore?
was actually the Howard the Duck movie was so bad, but the comic book strip is actually not too bad. It's really enjoyable, a lot more than you would think, considering it's Howard the Duck. Uh,
Jeez. Can't believe you admitted that.
yep. So all 3 of the X-Force skins are available in Fortnite Shop for a limited time, and players can earn a Deadpool skin by completing challenges from the Fortnite Season 2 Battle Pass. Fortnite's latest season was supposed to end in the next few weeks, however it has been delayed until June, which will give players more time to unlock Deadpool if they do need it. And that is it for the news.
Oh,
So,
right. Back to me.
so it is the last of the creepypastas. And can I do mine first? Because I had originally said I was going to do a cancelled WWE pay-per-view, but I've actually changed my mind and wanted to go with something that I actually want to look a bit more into and do a full-length video on. But I want to go over the short version of it just now. Just because, why not? Also because this is a video games podcast and we've not done a single video game creepypasta because we're doing them all next week, but I'm sure I can find another one to replace this very easily. Because I had about 6.
Wouldn't it be better tending that one? Wouldn't it be better tending that one?
Yeah, sure, why not? We'll end on that one.
Good. Right. Okay. So I'll go next. Okay. So my final story, isn't list. If you look up creepypasta, like in the kind of like the definition of it, it's more of a scary story from the internet. So going by that kind of logic, my girlfriend Vicky actually sent me this story. It's from Reddit. It was posted in it's a massive actually series of parts. And the Reddit is called girl_from_the_crypt. And unfortunately, I'm not read it all yet, purely just because like how work is. I'm not able to like read as much like between calls. Beyond the mad thing, trying to remember where the hell you got. Basically, it's a massive 18-part series. That's meant to chronicle years work at an amusement park. And the first first installment's titled I work at an amusement park. Only half of the monsters here are paid actors. Over the course of the first kind of installment, she kind of breaks down the idea that it's a massive amusement park. Think like, I guess we'll go for equivalent one of like, I would say Disneyland Paris kind of thing, but smaller, so go for like Alton Towers kind of idea. So it's a massive park, but it's broken down into themed sections. Like someone will like a horror section where you get like haunted hospital kind of idea. You get Fairyland, which all for all kids, all fairies and princesses and shit. And Wild West, right? So she says in each of the areas there are 2 actors, which are actual real people, who are paired up with. I believe the way she describes it as performers, but really they're monsters, like actual monsters.
Yeah.
So her partner in it is a monster called Mr. Scratch. She describes him essentially as a living Halloween costume. Like
Mm.
you can see the seams and stuff, but he doesn't move like a person. He's human shaped. The majority of the time, the creature walks on all fours, and between some seams, you can see anything inside. It's like shadow.
Yeah.
So, and while even though she's worked there for years, she still hasn't properly what it looks like. At least, unfortunately, I've not read all of it yet. As I said, it's only read up to like the third one. I'm trying to work my way through it eventually. But so far, just from the bits I've read, I'm beyond into it. Um, so basically, it kind of chronicles time there and how we maintain the monsters essentially.
Yeah.
So we're more or less like kind of kept in cages within the kind of how to word it, the staff areas, and they're able to kind of take them out into a public area, into a park, to mingle with the people.
Mm.
But each monster obviously varies in how much handling it. For Mr. Scratch, he needs to be led around in a leash. More for obviously it's because it's thematic the way he looks. He's kind of similar. He looks like more of like a kind of beast monster, like I think Disneyland. Can I say Disney kind of beast?
Mm.
If it was uh twisted as fuck, like a Spawn character. So he needs to get like leather in the collar and shit. Whereas you get other actors who need to look after things like I think it was like Plum Princess as she described it. I think it was in like chat free. It was described as what outwardly looks like a, a normal girl, like a ballerina type. But when the park closes and it comes time for the monster to kind of go back into its cage, it freaks out because it feeds an attention. So if you get too close to it, it'll reveal its true face, which is essentially a massive maw of teeth. Think equivalent of like an angry arsehole kind of thing,
Yeah.
like utter fear factor. Um, Unfortunately, I don't have as much detail in it as I wish I did because the series is something that's surprisingly got me hooked. I keep meaning to read it, and it's that way you kind of get off work and you're like, fuck it. But I would heartily recommend reading into it. Again, that's from girl under slash from under slash the under slash crypt. And again, it's just like horror movie, sorry, horror based theme park, at least in her section. And it's just her navigating, the real world mixed with her job, which obviously opens up into the idea of the super being evil and thriving thing.
Nice. That sounds really good. Uh, Sounds like a long read as well.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Each section is a proper, like, maybe 15, 20 minute read.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, you get through one bit and you feel like, right, I've read a good couple of chapters. 18, I was like, wow, age in a day, man.
Yeah.
I'd recommend it, honestly.
Yeah. Again, Mark, send me the link so I can pop that down in the description so that if anyone listening does want to read on, they can.
Well done.
And I'm going to wrap us up with a classic creepypasta. We're a video game podcast. We've not done a video game creepypasta today because we were going to do other creepypastas instead. Um, but I feel it's only right to wrap up with a video game based one. And this one has been in pop culture. People have made it into an actual game based off of stories from the creepypasta. And do you know what one I'm going to be talking about, Mark?
I don't know. I think I've got an idea, but I'll let you lead.
We're going to be talking about Polybius, or Polybius, if that's how you
No,
prefer to pronounce it.
it's
But it's definitely Polybius. Um,
definitely.
it's not so much creepypastas as an urban legend, but it is about a rare arcade game released in 1981. The game was created by a mysterious company called, I'm going to butcher this by the way, Sinus Lo- Sinus Lotion, which is German for
Seriously.
sense.
Since lotion.
Sinneslotion,
Since lotion. Yeah.
which is German for sense deletion, and it was a
Oh, okay.
puzzle or and a shoot 'em up, somewhat like Tempest, and it was only released in a few suburbs of Portland, Oregon. Now, it was supposedly very popular with people forming long lines to play it. However, players reported strange things about the game, such as hearing a woman crying and seeing grotesque faces out of the corner of their eyes. Players would also have nightmares, experience nausea, headaches, blackouts, and even develop amnesia. Some committed suicide, others stopped playing video games altogether, and at least one became an anti-video game activist. According to the owner of an arcade, men wearing black suits would often come to collect records from the game. They did not take any money, simply data on gameplay. Because of this, the leading theory is it was some sort of government experiment using subliminal messages. The game remains in obscurity around 1 month after its release, all of the cabinets suddenly disappeared. The cabinet reappeared in an arcade in 1998 but quickly disappeared again. While some have tried to recreate the game, no one has ever found the original ROM. The game there is a version of the game that people have tried to recreate, and it is available for download at the Sinneslotion website. And yeah, it says Sinneslotion 1981 is the only screenshot that you see that we've ever seen of it, and the name Polybius. Now, here's a couple of things that I found in the comment section for this one. Add to the translation of Sinneslotion. You've also got the German for hallucination, Sinnestauschen, which bears resemblance to the name of the company, and considering the game did cause hallucinations, there it is there. And there was an additional creepypasta that was actually posted in the comments regarding this. So the game was very real, and they even made a sequel in 1988. The Men in Black would come once a week and hook this doodad up to a slot on the motherboard on the right back side of the cabinet. These Men in Black would visit businesses and offer them payment to allow their arcade cabinet to reside in their facility and recruit participants in a special testing event. The more they recruited, the more money they would receive. In order for these participants to partake, they had to be 17 years or older and had to sign a contract stating they would not speak of the game or the events that happened during testing. While the testing event is being held, there are 2 ambulances and a white box truck parked in front of the building. Outside the entrance of the building is guarded by 1 or 2 men in black. Inside the event, they have 1 man in black observing, a man in a white lab coat taking notes, and 2 EMTs. When the final testing event is over, the men in black cover the cabinet in a black cloak and wheel it out into the white box truck. During the testing events, the business is closed to the public, but during normal business hours, the cabinet is kept covered and unplugged, but some places would just disable test mode and leave the game plugged in. The reason they would have to unplug the machine or disable test mode is because the cabinet had a small hole on the left side of the joystick panel that would spray an endorphin mist. On the Polybius 2 cabinets, the hole was located on top of the cabinet, and this was another reason why they had to keep it dark in the facility during testing. If you wanted to participate in the testing but you were under the age of 17, you had to test at the nearest US Air Force base in a single testing with a parent or legal guardian's signature. The person that wrote this says they had been tested twice on Polybius Part 1, once at Scott Air Force Base where they put them in a white room with a couch, a coffee table and TV. They hooked up all the monitoring wires to their head, arms and chest and gave them an injection in the right side of the neck, and they started freaking out. They told the father that it was fine and that they could gas the room. Um, as I started playing, the lights in the room began to slowly dim until it was dark. I must have blacked out because the next thing I remember, the lights were coming back on, and two guys in white lab coats were unhooking all the monitoring wires from me. When we walked out of the room and in the room they were observing me, my dad asked when he would be receiving his check, and they told him he would receive it in a couple of weeks. The second time was done at the home of a retired Air Force Combat Control Sergeant. Uh, my mother was dating this man at the time. He asked if I had played the game Polybius. I told him yes, and then asked me where, so I explained to him. He got on the phone quickly when I told him, and he asked if I would like to retest. I said sure, but this time I had to sign a contract of confidentiality and receive the injection in the right side of my neck. The game started, then I blacked out. I awoke 3 hours later, and the game was frozen on the psychedelic level. The sergeant got on the phone and told whoever was on the other end that the game had froze and told him my score and the amount of time it took. I participated in testing events that were open to the public for Polybius Part 2 in the Lincoln Theatre in Belleville, Illinois. White Cottage Yogurt Shop had Polybius Part 1 testing events. Lincoln Theatre had both Polybius Part 1 and 2 testing events. Aladdin's Castle, St. Clair Square Mall Arcade, Fairview Heights, Illinois had Polybius Part 1 testing events, and Camelot Bowl, Collinsville, Illinois had both Polybius 1 and 2 testing events. So yeah, that second bit was an addition that I found in the comments. There was actually a bit that has been used as extra information in some videos about the Polybius creepypasta. But yeah, it's kind of one of those creepypastas that kind of works in line with because that was roughly about the time of the MK Ultra testing. Do you remember that, Mark?
A little bit. Refresh my memory.
MK Ultra was using LSD to mind control people to become super soldiers, essentially.
Ooh, Captain America from drugs. I like it.
So it was kind of roughly about the same time as that, if memory serves. The best way to find out would be to Google MK Ultra.
And that's when your internet just cuts out. You know so much.
Project MK Ultra lasted from 1953 till about 73. The details didn't come public till 1975. So yeah, it was at least a decade after MK Ultra. So because MK Ultra was more Cold War.
Did I say used LSD on unsuspecting victims?
Yep.
Like, is it too late to let's put myself forward as tribute?
Well, considering they finished that in 1973, you're much too late to offer yourself as tribute.
That you know of. That you know of.
However, you can download Polybius from the Sinisloan website if you wish. That's the modern day MK Ultra after all.
Yeah, I don't think it's the same effect as a good bit of LSD, but I'll consider it.
You never know. But yeah, that was Polybius. Again, I will launch that down in the description. You can have a read for yourself. You can do additional research. I intend to make a slightly longer video about Polybius. Not so much about the creepypasta itself, but more about the its inclusion in media and stuff, as well as a quick run through of the creepypasta or urban legend itself.
Cool, man.
But I've got nothing left unless you have anything you wish to add, Mark.
Nah, man, I'm tapped out.
Tapped out. Well,
Yep.
that means it's clear sign for me to start saying that has been everything from us here at GamingKin. My name has been Jack. I've been joined by Mark.
Bye bye.
Um, as always, there's always room for you here at GamingKin if you want to be our friend. Uh, I'm trying to think if there's any videos coming up that we need to tell you about. There's no sim racing video this week, tomorrow, because I am on the AOR official channel commentating on the ILC instead of actually racing. And I think we're going to be back on Friday with a video of no news but just video game creepypastas.
Sounds good.
And we're also talking about doing video game fan theories. However, I think we can combine those two and just say video game creepypastas and or fan theories.
Okay, right. Yeah, that'd be fine.
And since we're not doing the news, we can go a bit more in depth in them, which will be a lot more interesting because we can then argue about them and discuss them. And I think that would be good. If there's any fan theories or creepypastas you want us to talk about, if there's any topics you would like to hear us talk about when we do the podcast, let us know in the comments or send us a message on Discord. Join the server. There should be a link in the description. That link might not actually be the right link. It's been changed a few times. I can't remember if I've kept it up to date, but I will have a look and update it if it needs updated. As always, I've been Jack, this has been Mark, we've been GamingKin, and as always, there's always room for you here at GamingKin if you want to be our friend. And as I say every other time, especially with the way the world has gone just now, stay safe out there.